Okay, so very, very welcome to you. As I said, this is recording for the people who can't make it there this lunchtime. So we're going to have a little chat today about neurodiversity in the workplace. Okay, just to briefly introduce myself to you, my name is Jeanette Delahunty and I am the owner of TSK Academy. I've won awards for Emerging New Business. I was a runner-up in Emerging New Business, and Established Business Award I won there last year as well, and I've been runner-up in a number of others. We look here at complex needs of different variants. So neurodiversity is a kind of an umbrella term for a lot of other things that's going on. So we might have people who are autistic or ADHD, dyslexic, dyspraxic, that kind of thing, and neurodiversity kind of covers all of that. So this is just going to give you a general overview today about what is neurodiversity. Okay, we'll have a look at what that is. We'll have a little chat around that. We'll take a look at some of the facts and figures, and we'll look at how we can help our employees and colleagues or people that you're working with. So you might be working with younger people. Maybe you're a carer or a support worker or a parent that's coming on here today. So we will look at all of those, and we'll look at the numbers so we can understand how we can help people a little bit better, and how hiring neurodivergent individuals can really help us progress with our futures and with life in general. And when we're looking at business, trying to make things a little bit more inclusive and creating that belonging amongst our colleagues and in our workplaces. And I think that's really important that we're able to do that. So that's kind of what we're going to look at today. I'm trying to keep it interactive as much as possible. So please do speak up. If you can speak up at all, please do. And I'd be delighted, obviously, to have you talking to me. That's always good to have people talking to me. Okay, so we'll jump straight on into it then. And I'll ask you there, what is neurodiversity? If anybody would like to give me an idea of what they think it is. Or if you want to pop something in chat, even, that would be grand. No takers today. Oh, we have a chat there. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Hi, Sarah. Thank you. It's great to have you here. I'm just going to stream this there as well. So neurodiversity then is basically a different way of thinking about things. When we take the word neurodiversity, that's okay, Sarah, thank you. And when we take the word neurodiversity, we look at the word neuro, which is like the brain or the central nervous system, and diversity. So diversity, as you know, is diversity. So looking at that then, we all know about what diversity means at this stage. So it's all about difference. So we're looking at brain differences. So when we're looking at the term neurodiversity, rather than defining things, we're looking at changing the way that we think about things like autism and ADHD, dyslexia, and other related conditions like that, you know. So it's important then that, sorry now, my Facebook is taking a few minutes to catch up with everything else, so my apologies there. I kind of wanted this to go out free from the beginning, so that everybody can log in as they need to. So we're changing the way that we do things. We're changing the way that we think about things, and we're thinking about brain differences. So brain differences then, as you know, is anything that's going on in the brain that's making us slightly different to somebody else. So it's the viewpoint that neurological differences like autism and ADHD are a normal, natural variation on the human genome. And please do ask me questions as we go if you wish to do so. So it moves away from the medical model and towards a biopsychosocial model. So seeing people as people and not something that needs to be fixed. So we're going to take a look at the biopsychosocial model before. I wonder, has anybody heard of the medical model or the social model of disability or the biopsychosocial model? No. Okay, so the medical model, thanks, Sarah. The medical model, basically, this is where we look at a person that needs to be fixed. Okay, so if we give like a really basic example of somebody's in a wheelchair. So if you're in a wheelchair, the medical model is going to turn around and say, well, you're not fitting into our society. So what we need to do now is we need to fix you so that you can fit into our society. So this is where we get the person to be able to walk so that they can fit in with everybody else. So the predominant of our nation is are walking, able-bodied individuals. So this is where the medical model just comes in and it says, let's fix everybody to fit in with everybody else. So we're going to fix the person, which is not really where we want to be. What we want to be doing is recognizing that everybody is different. So we moved forward a bit from that then, and in around the 1980s, we came up with what we call the social model of disability. So the social model of disability is looking at the person. And so we take our person in the wheelchair, for example, and instead of trying to make them fit in with us, we try and make ourselves fit them. So this is where you would see the likes of lifts going in, ramps, automatic doors, anything like that that's going to create an environment which is inclusive for that person with that disability, so who is in a wheelchair. So then we're changing our environment to suit the person. Now, what we really want to do is we want to take it that one step further. So that one step further then is the biopsychosocial model. So the biopsychosocial model is basically seeing somebody as a whole person. So we're seeing everything. So not only are we going to help this person in the wheelchair to function in a sense of maybe they're in incredible pain. Okay, so in which case they might need some medications, some reflexology, some other therapies to help them out of pain, okay, which will also help them sleep. And we're going to create ramps. So we look at the medical side of things. So what can we do medically for that person? And then what can we do socially for that person? And then what kind of supports can we put in place for that person? So it's looking at the person as a whole. So that's basically the biopsychosocial model of disability, and that's just taking the whole person into consideration. Does that make sense to everybody? That's great, thank you. So as you can see then, we're looking at the whole person and we can create an environment where we're creating that belonging, and this goes for everything. So if you are an autistic individual, for example, you might need some supports. Let's say you might not be in any pain, but maybe you have some trouble sleeping as part of the condition. So maybe you need a little bit of medicine to help you sleep at night. Okay, this will improve your mental health because you get in a good night's rest. Okay, and then the supports that we need then, the social side of things, is maybe when we're in the environment, we could reduce the lighting somewhat so that it's not overwhelming somebody who has difficulty with the senses. So somebody doesn't really have difficulty with their sensory processing if everything in their environment is inclusive for them. So we can reduce the lights. We can create more natural lights. We can create an environment that's neuro-inclusive. Okay, and then of course there's putting the other supports in place, so making sure that they're feeling included by everybody else. So when we're in our environments, the workplace colleagues are understanding of difference, and rather than judging somebody because of the way that they do things, they're accepting them for the way that they do things. So would you say if neuro is the brain, okay, on the central nervous system, and diverse is difference, would you say that we're all neurodiverse? Yeah. technically speaking, we are all neurodiverse because we all are unique. Every single one of us are unique. We all have a different way of seeing things. We all have different perspectives. We all have a different brain. Okay, so typically, yes. Now, the term neurodiversity is actually split into two different categories. Okay, so we have neurodivergent and we have neurotypical. So the neurodivergent side of things is looking at neuro differences, so like autism, dyslexia, Tourette's syndrome. Those neurodifferences then are recognised and they're appreciated as a social category, similar to differences in ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, or ability. So this is where we have people who would be classed as the neuro minority. So autistic individuals, 1 in 65 approximately here in Ireland, that's diagnosed. Okay, that's not including anybody that's not diagnosed, would be a neuro minority, because 65 people would be classed as neurotypical, 1 person classed as autistic. So they're classed as a neuro minority. Okay, so this is neurodivergent, people who identify as having a neurological difference in their brain. And then we have neurotypical. So this is everybody else essentially. So this is somebody who would think and process information in ways that are typical within their culture. They tend to learn skills and reach developmental milestones around the same time as their peers. Okay, so that would be somebody who would be generally neurotypical. Now, this, as it says there, this is typical within their culture. So you could take my family, for example, and in my family, we have 11 children between us, and half of our children would be classed as neurodivergent. So in our culture, let's say in our house, neurodivergence is actually the neurotype. I don't know if that makes sense, but it basically means that we're predominantly neurodivergent in our house. So therefore, the neurotypical side of things in our house actually would be autism. We have autism, we have ADHD, we have dyslexia, we have NF1 dyspraxia, sensory processing, obsessive compulsive and social anxiety disorder. And those are all, some of them on the same person and some of them on different people. So you can see there that it is important to note that one person's neurotypical may very well be different to another's depending on their society and their culture, their family, etc. I hope that makes sense. You can fire out any questions if anybody has any at any stage. So I want you to think for a moment about your own talents and your own struggles, because we all have them. We all have talents in areas and we have struggles in others. So I want you to think about that for a moment. I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. Maybe write something down about what you think your talent is. What are you really good at? What's something that just kind of comes naturally to you? And something then that you just can't get your head around. You can't seem to master it no matter how many times you try. I want you to think about that for a moment. Have sensitivity emotionally. Yeah. Like super empathetic, is it, Sarah, that you can kind of get quite upset easily if you see somebody else upset and they might even just be in the distance, that kind of thing? Empathetic. Yeah, no, I totally get you. Totally get you. I would have a tendency to be the same. And sometimes my husband is like, "Why are you crying?" And it could be because I'm a little bit too empathetic with somebody who probably has nothing to do with me, but I feel somebody else is suffering, and it really affects me on quite a deep level. And that is a struggle. It is genuinely a struggle. So we do have talents and we do have struggles in different areas. When you're thinking about your struggles, how do you manage those? How are you dealing with that? You're the same, June, are you? Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? So when we get like that. What I want you to think about as well there is your actual talents. If you're put somewhere where like where you're going to excel, where you can do something that you enjoy doing and that you're really good at doing, you will excel in that place, in that environment. So whether you're in a college environment, in school, at home, when we do something that we're good at, we excel. We really do. We shine. That's what happens. If we're put in an environment where we're not going to cope, like if somebody told me now I have to go and work in accounts, right, I'm just going to have a complete shutdown. I will not, I'd be like, the anxiety in me would be absolutely massive, because accounting is not my strength. Accounting is something that I really struggle with. I'm not great with the numbers. To look at it as a weakness, which is true. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a weakness, Sarah. Having empathy is a strength, not a weakness. It can be a struggle for us sometimes if we're starting crying in the middle of nowhere and we don't really, we can't really articulate as to why we're doing it, because to somebody else it doesn't make sense. You know, or I'm crying because I saw somebody else upset, and they're like, well, that's nothing to do with you. Do you know? And it can be very, very difficult. So it can be a struggle, but it's also a strength. Yeah, absolutely. Having empathy is a strength. We have to think about people with the neurological differences. They're actually no different to neurotypical people in the sense that they also have talents and they also have struggles. Okay, everybody has talents, everybody has struggles, everybody finds something really easy. When we work somewhere that we can display our strengths, as I said there already, we will excel in what we do. And in an environment where we're going to struggle to succeed, we're going to become even more stressed and even more overwhelmed. When we're looking at that biopsychosocial model, you know, when we're looking at that, if you're putting somebody into that environment, if you are ADHD, for example, your stress levels are already really high, because stress is part and parcel of ADHD. They're already got the stress response system is on alert kind of constantly. So when they're put in an environment where they're not able to excel because things around them aren't being productive. Let's say, for example, working in a call center where you're tied to the phone. Okay, you have to log in, you have to log out, you can't get up and walk around, you don't have that kind of ability. That's going to be a really difficult environment for somebody with ADHD, unless they have the supports in place from their employers, which say you can get up and move around as many times as you want. Okay, the same as for people who have cigarette breaks, for example. They can take cigarette breaks because it's an addiction. So we should essentially be able to put something in place for somebody who's ADHD and say, you can get up away from your desk as many times as you need to, just as long as you're meeting your targets. Okay, so there might be some limitations there. There might be some conditions that they have to go to. The lady who works with me, Shanna, she's dyslexic and she needs to work her own hours, which are flexible. And she does 10 hours a week for me, that's all. For me, if she wants to do her 10 hours on a Monday, that's fine. If she gets up at 2 in the morning because she can't sleep and she wants to do 3 or 4 hours, then that's fine. That's for her to decide what hours she wants to do, as long as she's doing the hours that she needs. And if you can work like that with somebody and have that flexibility, it can really support them. So these are some of the neurodivergent conditions that come into the neuro minorities. Now, this is only some of them. This isn't all of them. There's quite some missing. But you can see from this, and I particularly like this infographic because it's very inclusive. You know, it's really looking at things from a strengths-based perspective, which is where we want to be. It's what we want to be doing. And when we're looking at a strengths-based perspective, we're thinking about all of the talents that somebody has. So thinking back to your talents there. So you guys being very empathetic, that's a talent, that's a strength. What kind of environment, where would you excel the most in? So something like customer services would be a good place. Something like counseling or therapy would be a good place. where you can empathize with somebody, a complaints department, because you're going to be that problem solver that's seeing things from the other person's perspective and empathizing with them. So we have to look at things from a strengths-based perspective. What can they do rather than what they can't do? And things that you can't do, as you know, as adults, there's not so much pressure on us anymore to do it. If I can't do accounting, that's absolutely fine. I'll just get somebody else to do it for me. Okay, I struggle with certain things, sensory-wise, inside in the house. I used to have a massive phobia. No laughing now, but I used to have a massive phobia of raw cabbage. Couldn't touch it. So I used to have to get somebody else to chop it up for me. Very good, June. So I would get people to chop it up for me because I couldn't do it. I had a big phobia against it. More recent times, they sell it ready chopped. So you can see now we have ways and means of not having to deal with our struggles quite so much, in the sense that we can put strategies in place, or there are strategies in place there for us to help us with our struggles. And there's no reason why we can't do that for children and for people that we work with as well. So what is somebody struggling with? What can we put in place to help that person to succeed? My whole house now can eat cabbage because if there's nobody there to chop it for me, I could just buy it ready chopped. Okay, so it's a strategy. I have a strategy in place that works for us, and that's kind of what you do. So ADHD, for example, I would do a lot of hyper focus when I have a deadline. I need deadlines. If I don't have deadlines, it just doesn't get done. It's as simple as that. 9 times out of 10, if I have something on my to-do list, it will stay on my to-do list until it becomes a priority. Okay, I don't deal with things when I should. I wait until they are 100% a priority and they're urgent, and then they get done. It's not really a good way of functioning. So for me, then that creates a lot of stress for me. But working on my own, I don't really have anybody else to answer to. So I don't have anybody else coming and breathing down my neck telling me, you have to get this done. That's what works for me. My son, who's autistic, childcare and training to be an SNA, excellent, Sarah, and super job for you, absolutely brilliant. I'd say you make your call in there. My son is autistic and he works in a cafe, and he has a good eye for detail. He also has OCD, and he has a great eye for detail, and he likes things just so. Okay, for him to thrive in that environment, which he is doing now, he has some things that he put in place. Now, he hasn't told them he's autistic, but he asked, can I wear a cap? And that keeps the sensory, the light and stuff off his eyes. So that helps him. And they said, yeah, of course you can. Those are small things that you can put in place to help somebody really succeed. Yeah, yes, I 100% agree. I was in a creche for a few years, and the paperwork is an awful lot. It can be very overwhelming, and the amount of times I came home, because I'd be in support there, and I'd come home and I was super stressed, and my husband would say, what happened to you? I was beaten up today by a 3-year-old. It can be very overwhelming and difficult, because you want the person to succeed, and sometimes it can be hard to make that connection and to get them to where they need to be. So you can see that is some of the things that we have. So we'll have a quick look at the numbers there. We won't focus on this too long, but it's just really so you can have a bit of an idea as to where we are here in Ireland. So 1 in 65 are diagnosed autistic. If we consider all of the people that don't have a diagnosis as yet, or maybe do not know that they're autistic, or have identified as autistic and don't feel the need to get a diagnosis, you're looking at around 1 in 20, 1 in 23. Okay, so the numbers are actually really quite high. 10% of our population are dyslexic, 8% are dyspraxic. DCD stands for developmental coordination disorder, which is dyspraxia. Tourette's affects around 1% of our population, up to 7.1% of ADHD. 90% of our disabilities are invisible. And I think that is a really shocking number. When we're working in an environment where they say that, what's the word I want to use? We value difference, we value diversity, and all of those other things. When they're looking at diversity, they're often looking at race, gender, and abilities and disabilities that they can actually see. But 90% of all of our disabilities are actually invisible. So that's looking at dyslexia, autism. And I know sometimes we don't like to look at them as disabilities, but for a lot of people, they are very disabling. And again, depending on where they are on the spectrum and what their level of challenges are in their life, which essentially shouldn't be the case. Sorry now, I'll just read the chat there. Yeah, it could be super hard to help them. In the preschool, Sarah, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but the home tuition grant scheme, the parents might qualify for the home tuition grant scheme. And if they do, they can kind of use that for the person that they hire, for the tutor to come in and support that child coming into the preschool, because it's helping support their social learning. Might be worth looking at for the family. Okay, now the probable mental health conditions affects up to 10% of the population that are over 15 at any one time. And again, that's what's been recorded. That's not what people are identifying as. And up to 11,000 people sustain a traumatic brain injury every year here in Ireland, which means that they are an acquired neurodivergent. Okay, so that they've become a neurodivergent on account of an injury. So what it means here for us is that 1 in 7 people, so we take all of those conditions and we're all under the neurodivergent umbrella. Okay, it means that 1 in 7 people are considered neurodivergent. Okay, so from people, it's in your house, let's say in our house, we have more than average. Okay, in some people's houses, they may have less than average numbers, but generally 1 in every 7 people that you are with would be classed as neurodivergent. Now, we have a bit of a difficulty here in Ireland, and there was research that came out there just in 2019 through As I Am, and I think it was irishjobs.ie as far as I'm aware. And they discovered that more than around 70% of employers believe it's too difficult to hire a neurodivergent employee, even though they are already hiring them. They just don't know it. And I think that that's really interesting. It's something around 49% of autistic individuals will not tell their employers that they're autistic, which is, it's sad, really. You know, there should be a culture now in this day and age where people are not afraid to go and tell their employers or tell anybody that they're autistic or dyslexic or whatever neurodivergent condition that they have. They shouldn't be afraid to do that. So let's have a look and see how we can support them. So obviously this is going to really depend largely on the individual and their particular struggles and challenges. As we know, depending on the situation, the challenges and struggles are going to be very, very different. So just to give you an example, my son has sensory processing disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and social anxiety disorder. That's just one of them. And his struggles would have been very environmental, especially in a school environment. He didn't finish school because school was not the right place for him. So he left school at 16. Had the school have been more inclusive and allowed him to stim inside of the classroom, allowed him to use his fidgeters, allowed him to get up and move around a little bit, given him extra time in exams and tests, removed exams altogether, because for him the anxiety would be at least 3 weeks before an exam, before a test. If he knew about it, he didn't sleep, he didn't eat, he was aggressive. Very, very difficult time for him. Had they been inclusive, he probably would have gone on and completed school. So we have to look at somebody's struggles and their challenges and see how we can alleviate those in the environment. Okay, because 9 times out of 10, it's the environment, which is everything around them, objects, people, the sensory, the weather, all of those things are part and parcel of what's adding to somebody's challenges. So we need to focus on their strengths. We focus on their strengths and their talents and think about how we can enhance these. What is somebody really good at? So the child in your creche, for example, what is something that that child is really good at, and how can we enhance that? So if they have a special interest of dinosaurs, for example, how can we bring that into everything else? If they struggle with painting and artwork, okay, can we bring the dinosaurs into the artwork? So what can we do to enhance their strengths and their talents? How can we reduce the struggles? Thinking about the lighting, the environment around you, the heat. Is it too warm, too cold? Do they really need to wear a jumper if it's something that's causing them immense stress? So what can we do about their struggles and help them to reduce them? And we help people to identify them then if they're not sure what they are. Provide a quiet space and make this available to everybody. So in the likes of a large organisation, for example, is there somewhere that people could go where they can relax, chill out and not be interrupted by anybody else? Is there somewhere that people could go where they can work in quiet? Is it something that we can provide headphones or ear defenders or sunglasses? All of these things can really help to reduce that. And if we provide them for everybody, then there's not going to be any stigma in the workplace, that anybody can make use of them. And promote movement breaks. So as I was saying earlier, if it's a call centre, for example, can the person get up and move around? Do they need to be tied to their desk all of the time? In a school or in a preschool environment, there may be a child that's a little bit busy, that needs to get outside a little bit more. Can we bring them outside? Are the ratios going to allow for that, where one person could just bring that child outside, let them run around for a while and come back in? I know over in, I believe it's Sweden, I think it was Sweden or Switzerland, who was it that was telling me recently? I believe it's Sweden, where they are all-inclusive for things like that. And if somebody needs to get up and walk around, they're allowed to do so. If somebody needs to go and run around outside, they're actually allowed to do so. And they don't need a teacher to come and support them to do that. They're given the freedom, they're given the trust. Foster a culture of acceptance, openness, and inclusivity. When everybody understands difference, and difference on every level, that is when that culture of acceptance is going to be there. But everybody has to accept it. This is where we have to challenge our unconscious biases, the things that we're raised with that we don't realise that we have. Having regular one-to-ones, making sure we're checking in with people. Okay, how are you doing today? Can I help you? What can I do today to help you with your daily chores or your work or whatever the case may be? So think about becoming a better leader. And most importantly, ask the person directly. Nobody knows themselves better than them. So ask them, what do you need? What do you need to succeed today? And let them give you the chance to tell you. Fidget toys don't have to be fidget toys as such, but make fidget toys available throughout the building. So you can have anything from, you don't have to invest in a load of fidget toys and spinners and cubes and all that thing, paper clips, glue tack, anything they can fiddle with, clicky pens, all of that kind of thing are really good fidget toys that could be around in an office, in a school, in a preschool. Preschools are great places for anything sensory, like Play-Doh, stickle bricks. They're very good for sensory because of the way they feel. Sand and pasta play, for example. Provide technical aids for people, so like the text-to-speech, Grammarly, Live Scribes, these are all excellent items for dyslexic people, but as we said already, what helps a neurodivergent person helps everybody. So put them across the board and make sure everybody has access to them. Give ample time to notify meetings, make sure that you're prepared for people to walk out when they've had enough. Provide agendas with timeframes so people know what to expect. This could be when you're in an organisation that you're given an agenda, and let's say they're talking about staff ratios, just to bring that in. They're going to be talking about staff ratios from 5:10 to 5:20. So as an autistic individual or somebody with ADHD, they can see, all right, okay, I only need to know about staff ratios today. I don't need anything else on the agenda. I'm going to come in at 5:10 and then I can leave at 5:20. Yeah, I know that meetings don't always go according to plan, and we can't always plan for those instances. But if we give people an idea, it reduces that anxiety, that overwhelm. If you tell people they are required to stay for the entire meeting, give them the option to get up and walk around or move or leave or put fidgeters in the meeting room so people can stay occupied and grounded. And there are then minor changes that you can make to the environment to help avoid sensory overwhelm. So like we were saying earlier, reducing the lighting. Maybe you can have a dimmer switch or automatic reducing of lighting, creating the more natural light in the environments, having, pot plant, quiet area, declutter. Declutter is a massive thing, especially for somebody with ADHD. If you can declutter things, that can really help. And promote the use of lists and visuals, diaries, calendars, and timetables. I live by them. I have a list here every single day. I work with my calendar. I can't survive without it. I don't know what you guys are like, but I have to have them. I have to have my calendar. My calendar is in my diary. It's on my computer. It's on my phone. I get prompts of when I have to do things, but I need that because otherwise nothing would ever get done. And think about the allyship or a diversity champion. Lots of organisations have that now, where kind of like we do in the preschools, like we have a buddy system for the kids. So it's the same kind of thing, just for grown-ups, where we have the diversity champion or the allyship, where somebody on the floor is constantly checking in on other people. That it's a daily thing. How can I help you? What can I do for you? How are you today? And actually, how are you today? And I know that's something I really struggled with when I moved here 23 years ago, when somebody went, well, how are you? And I went to answer them about how I was, and discovered that they didn't actually want my answer. So it took a little getting used to, but when we're checking in with somebody, we're not just going to go, well, how are you? We're going to say, well, how are you doing today? And we're going to wait for that response. So people know that they are valued, that they are seen. Okay, that's really, really important, that people know that they are seen and that they feel valued by other people within the building. So briefly then, how neurodiversity helps the business. Neurodivergent people have many strengths. In fact, the strengths would be much more profound than what our strengths would be for a neurotypical person. The same as the challenges would be more profound than a neurotypical person. When there's strengths there, they really do excel in so many areas. Neurodivergent people possess skills that are required for the future workplace, as automation takes over the tasks that don't require human input. What's the name of the lady? Kate Griggs is her name, from This is Dyslexia, Made by Dyslexia. They did a study, and the study showed that by 2025, half of our jobs are going to be automated, which means only 50% now of the jobs are going to need human input. And human input, we need people that have got empathy, like you guys. They need to be empathetic. They need to be out of the box thinking. They need to be fast on their feet. All of the things that we need are required. And neurodivergent people really possess those skills. So dyslexic people have significant strengths in creativity, visual reasoning, visual spatial skills, storytelling, entrepreneurialism. People with dyspraxia have been found to have high verbal comprehension ability. People with ADHD can have strong visual spatial reasoning abilities and creative thinking, and can be hyper-focused, passionate, and courageous. Autistic people have strengths in memory, thinking innovatively, paying attention to detail, and have other specialist individual skills, including reading, drawing, music, and computation. And those with Tourette's syndrome show an ability to hyper-focus and have high verbal ability. Companies then gain a competitive advantage. JP Morgan Chase, he actually has an Autism at Work initiative, and he noted there that autistic individuals make fewer errors and are up to 100%, 140% more productive than his neurotypical employees. Neurodiverse employees often bring hyper-focused and complex repetitive tasks, which they can sustain over a longer period of time. And organisations who hire neurodiverse employees have retention rates of more than 90% higher than average. Wonder why would you think that is, that there's a higher retention rate when we hire for diversity? Anyone? It's that sense of belonging. It's one of the reasons why, because people feel that they belong. And if you belong in a company and you feel valued, you don't want to leave. Okay. It's also they're not liking change could be something as well. 86% of employers rated neurodiverse employees as being more dependable, motivated, and engaged in their workplace. So that gives us a couple of minutes there for Q&A, if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask. No? You're very welcome. But I'd like to thank everybody for joining me there today. I hope you've got something out of the session today, and this recording is going to go up onto YouTube there, so it'll be accessible at any stage on our YouTube channel. And I think it was live streamed, but I'm not quite sure did that work. I'm not really used to the old Facebook streaming, but look, if it is, it'll be available on there as well for you to look back on. If anybody has any questions or they'd like any further information, you're very welcome to contact me here at info@tskacademy.com, and our office number is 00353 56781 9111. And just thank you so much for joining me here today. Okay. Thanks a million, and take care, everybody. Thank you.